have like a picture set, and so it popped up, and she's like,
"What is
you were
this?"
staring off into the distance. What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. I'm senior Texas A&M sportswriter Travis Brown here at KBTX. Over there, sports director Tyler Shaw. We had some technical difficulties this week. We tried recording actually multiple times. Things are not working for us great. So Max is off today. We didn't want to have to drag him in here to work on his day off. So you're stuck with the two of us.
We actually got through an entire podcast. That was the thing. The kind of deflating thing is we did do a full podcast episode. It's just there's no audio, so we can't exactly. That doesn't work.
No, so it was a really good one too.
Yeah,
like we had so many takes, we had so many stats, we had graphics, we had everything, and. Yeah, it was lost forever. The video of it is there if we want to just post soundless video.
That's true. We could do that.
Silent movie.
So if this one's not good, just trust us that the real one actually was good, and this is just kind of an abbreviated, afterthought almost.
Yeah, and we had like good pre-South Carolina series content. A&M baseball, of course, last night. The walk-off. Hayden Sorrell. We talked some softball. Softball's going to LSU this weekend. It was really great. You should have heard it. But we did talk a lot about Bucky Ball. The arrival of, and we did actually talk because it was the day after Luka returned to Dallas. We'll cut that.
Yeah, let's not relive that. Let's not.
But we did talk a lot of Bucky Ball. Bucky McMillan, the new head coach at A&M, was announced on Monday. We talked to a lot of people this week and the days prior, kind of about him, his style of play. Just initially, your thoughts on the hire and what he brings to A&M.
So my thoughts, what I've heard other people say, kind of what the generic. Kind of the consensus I feel is the guy can coach. He has been successful at every level. I get that it is kind of one of those high risk, high reward situations because there's the unknown of he's making a big jump going from the Southern Conference in Samford to the SEC, coming off a historic season, the best conference we've ever seen in college basketball. So he's now in the thick of it, coaching in the SEC. So we'll see if he can. Convert on that level, but he can coach. I think that the biggest thing is can he get the guys here? Can he recruit? Can he get a competitive SEC caliber team here in College Station? We will see. The verdict is out on that, but I think his style of play, already the staff that he's building, what he's bringing to Aggieland is exactly what Texas A&M needs. And you brought it up. It's kind of the opposite of what Buzz Williams was. Not that Buzz Williams was bad by any stretch. I mean, he had success here, but this is almost kind of the antithesis of what they had with Buzz Williams.
Well, first off, Max just needs to eat his heart out because Crawford Cam is no more right now. It's Shaw Cam.
Yeah.
Tyler, tune in. So, yeah, that's exactly the point I was going to get into is that so many times, I mean, ADs have thoughts about good coaches and good fits and who they would like to see, but so many times when you go back and look at men's basketball, football, sometimes baseball coaching hires, it's always like a little bit of the opposite. If you had in football, if you had an offensive coach, they usually hire a defensive coach. It kind of the pendulum sways back the other way, and in so many ways, Bucky Ball is different than Buzz Ball. Buzz Ball, while both analytically driven, they both are big about their numbers. Buzz's numbers he keyed in on were offensive rebounds, second chance points, low turnover margin, getting to the free throw line, scoring points when the clock wasn't running. Bucky Ball is like high octane, pants on fire, high pressure defense, and that money ball that's kind of become in vogue lately with. They're going to shoot three-pointers, they're going to shoot layups, they're going to shoot free throws. He kind of gave the analogy of if all you had to deal with in golf was driving, chipping, and putting, you could be pretty good at golf. The driver, the pitch and wedge, the putter. You don't have to worry about hitting a 2-iron off the deck or which fairway wood or hybrid. Right? If you just have 3 clubs and that's what you're going to do, it's a lot simpler game, and that's what they're going to try to do on offense. Curious, I talked to Trev Alberts a little bit afterwards to the side, and he said it a little bit in the welcome event, but he kind of expanded on it, saying the reason they hire Bucky McMillan is because they want to modernize the program. The modern game, the NBA game, is a little bit more of this kind of money ball type offense, and it's the kind of offense that recruits want to play in, and so therefore he was the natural hire.
Yeah, and I think you do kind of want to mimic the NBA, especially in today's world where the lines are being blurred between professionalism and amateurism with NIL and everything. You almost want to, yes, evolve and be modern and kind of mimic what the NBA game is. And the NBA, the last several years, has gone more towards that kind of run and gun, shoot threes. There's, the mid range is almost dead in a lot of teams.
A three with your toes on the line is really kind of mid-range.
Yes.
Because then you have the three from the logo, which a lot of guys are throwing up there too.
Right. Then you start, there's the discussion of, do we need to put a 4-point a 4-point line into just the range that these players have nowadays. But Bucky seems to have been ahead of all of this, where he's still young, but he's coached for so long, 12 years at high school, 5 years at Samford, that his Bucky Ball, he's kind of been on the forefront of this kind of style of play, which is so popular. And I think that will play to recruits. We'll see if he can get some of this top talent and the guys here in College Station, but I think the style of it play and the way he coaches will be an attractive factor. If they can have the NIL support around that, I think that's what College Station needs.
I do think that's the case as well. I mean, just kind of resetting Bucky McMillan a little bit. Like you said, 12 years at the high school. Well, first off, was a point guard in high school, went to Mountain Brook High School in Alabama, right outside of Birmingham. While he was still playing basketball in high school, he was coaching AAU teams for younger kids. That's kind of where he got his head coaching start. I asked him in the press conference just about where Bucky Ball came from, and he kind of started off by saying he has more head coaching experience than any college head coach, because he's been a head coach from every level of ball you can imagine since he was 15. And so he said a lot of times if you follow the normal coaching route, you might be a GA, an assistant, a video coordinator, an associate head coach. And then you get in and you finally get your head coaching job, and you might not have ever actually called a timeout in a game. Yeah. He's been doing that for a while. And he's had this kind of laboratory, whether it was AAU or JV or varsity, where he kind of got to play with the analytics and see what worked and what didn't work, and kind of experiment to get to where he's gotten to with this. But 12 years at Mountain Brook High School, where his alma mater, he stayed in Birmingham, then made the jump right to, there first he won, 5 state titles in 12 years, and made 8
championships.
Title game appearances. So at the highest levels, he was changing basketball in Alabama. And you have to note that Nate Oates, the head coach at Alabama right now, plays this same kind of money ball offense in the state of Alabama as well, and brought it in there. Bucky was doing it for a while before that. Jumped to Samford, 5 seasons at Samford, went straight to a D1 head coaching job, made an NCAA tournament appearance and an NIT appearance, won 2 regular season titles, 1 tournament title, and was a 3-time conference coach of the year, and then made the jump right in to the SEC. I talked a little bit to some of the guys he coached with and his AD at Mountain Brook. They said he was an X's and O's guy. Bucky Eves, one of his assistant coaches there, told me that the cliche of when everybody else is playing checkers, he's playing chess. As a coach, they said he's a real big motivator. And kind of the one things that really stuck out to me about what you'll see is, it was kind of a funny analogy. They brought him in as a coach, as a JV coach, when he was 24, really young. And Terry Cooper, who was the AD at the time, said, when I talked to him, the biggest thing they're worried about is how would he interact with the parents? How would he be able to handle situations when parents said, my kid should be playing more? And they said that was resolved quickly. because everybody played. It's so high octane, it's so high energy that anytime there's a dead ball, he said somebody is subbing in, to the point where coaches, other coaches at the end of games are making offensive and defensive substitutions when the game's on the line late. He's doing that like the entire game. And that's what kind of stood out to me a little bit about some of those conversations.
Yeah, well, and it'll be interesting because of how he does those substitutions and that style of play. A&M's definitely going to need some depth in order to be successful with Bucky Ball, which I think will happen with time. This year will just be interesting to kind of see. I talked to Billy Kennedy.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about that.
Former A&M coach who his assistant, Mitch Cole, is on this staff, so he's a big supporter of that, of kind of this assistant. The staff right now is how it's coming together. He believes in it, and he actually made the analogy to Nate Oates, to where kind of their similar paths, and he thinks that's the way to go right now. I know a lot of people like making the splashy hire and bringing in the big name, and but that, like we've witnessed personally, that doesn't always work. And so Billy Kennedy seemed to kind of draw that comparison of the Bucky McMillan taking that Nate Oates path, and obviously if it works out like Nate Oates does, that's a home run hire.
And for those of you watching, I put up a graphic here with the coaching staff as built so far. We built this a day ago when we were trying to do this, and now it's TJ Cleveland from Wichita State has also been added to this, so a little bit behind on our graphic. There's 4 people on staff right now, but we in doing this podcast once before, but also talking in the office about that interview you had with Billy Kennedy, and what you were just saying, like so much of this success is going to revolve around the roster they build, and in turn the resources that they have. I know Billy talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, so his quote was, "Show me the money." He said, when talking about how successful they're going to be, he said, "Show me the money. They need to get the guys in here to make this work." And obviously that's true across all sports. You can't win without the players. But this especially is going to be important when you rely so much on depth, on running 10 guys deep in a game. You're going to need shooters. They have not had the kind of shooters that probably Bucky will want to bring in, like in the past. So we're going to see a different type of roster, more than likely, because Buzz had his guys. Bucky's going to have kind of his style of guys that he wants. So I think that's what it's going to all come down to. I know there's still, the verdict might still be kind of out on people whether they think this is the right coach. I think Bucky, while he hasn't done it at the SEC, has already proven he can coach. It's going to be, can you be competitive in the NAL? Because there are teams putting out a lot of money to get some top talent right now, and some of these collectives are really ponying up.
Yeah, and just a little bit of background on that. In one of our last podcasts, we talked a little bit about the House settlement, what revenue sharing that's going to bring when it gets approved. Monday was supposed to be, it was a hearing. It was an approval hearing, but early on, Claudia Wilkins said that the judge over it said she wasn't going to rule from the bench. This was going to take a little bit more time. Well, before they, basketball coaches knew that, they were kind of concocting a way to circumvent the salary cap, as it were, the cap, the $20.5 million cap that's going to be on revenue sharing NIL from schools, by saying if they front load deals with players to third-party collective NIL deals before revenue sharing, before the House settlement is approved, you can kind of add money on top of the cap and kind of play with the numbers a little bit in this first year. So many players were going into the portal early and signing early because they wanted to get on roster and sign their deals before potentially on Monday that settlement would be approved. All that to say, when we asked Bucky in the press conference about what the roster makeup, how they're going to be able to get players out of the portal with the portal already being open, he said they're not going to be able to be as selective as they would like to be, because a lot of those players got in and got out early and found their new homes. So it will be interesting to see what this looks like. I know in Pete Thamel's reporting for ESPN when they announced the story that Bucky was coming to A&M, he put in there in his reporting that A&M will have like a $7 million war chest for basketball between NIL and revenue sharing. I asked Trev Alberts about that after the press conference on Monday. He wouldn't confirm the number, but he did say, in order to be competitive in basketball, resources need to be there, and they're going to have the resources. So it's a little bit of a different mindset towards basketball maybe than in some of the years past under Buzz Williams.
Yeah, and hopefully that if they want to be competitive in this new era, they kind of show that effort. And if that's that $7 million should potentially keep them competitive. Once the house settlement happens, then the question is, because we know A&M is a football first kind of school. It's going to be how much beyond football are they willing to invest in these other sports, and especially men's basketball. But if that's true, then it looks like it might be more of a forefront than in years past.
So I think ultimately it's a little bit of a wait and see, but I think this is a good hire. I think this is the way A&M should have gone from the get-go, is get the young up-and-comer with a style he's perfected, an entertaining style. I think whether right or wrong, A&M's fan base had kind of soured a little bit on the little bit more rock fight of a style that Buzz Williams teams like to play. This is going to be high energy, high octane, a lot of three-pointers. I mean, they were top 10 in three-point field goal percentage over the last 2 years. Samford was, in just some of the stats that I was looking at, and they've been top 50 and then also top 10 in tempo and adjusted tempo and how many possessions per game. I mean, and in scoring. I mean, they were averaging 2 years ago like 84 points per game when they went to the NCAA tournament. So it's going to be a lot of balls in the net and a lot of high risk, high reward defense.
Yeah, this should drum up a lot of excitement with the fans. I think they'll start to fill butts and seats at Reed Arena.
Hey y'all, it's Max, and if you've been watching the pod, you know this by now, that we have a new official sponsor of the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. And it is a familiar face. You know him, you have seen him around Aggieland for many, many years. Say hello to C&J Barbecue. Now, I don't know if there are many of you out there, but if you live in the Brazos Valley and you have not been to C&J Barbecue yet, what on earth are you guys doing? The crew at C&J started out smoking just about 20 pounds of meat a day in a tiny gas station on a Harvey Road. Now, they serve over 2,200 pounds every single day across 3 locations. So you know it's good. They've fed President Bush, catered for Willie Nelson. Yeah, Willie. But most importantly, they've been feeding Aggies and locals for over 40 years. In fact, I had myself some at a catering event last weekend, and the brisket was absolutely amazing. Don't even get me started on the sides and the appetizers, because Justin is always cooking up some amazing stuff. Just get there, see, smell, and taste for yourself. Tell them the guys sent you. C&J Barbecue, a family tradition.
But basketball's not the only thing drumming up excitement around Aggieland these days. We got a top 6 showdown at Davis Diamond. I mean, we're kind of in the home stretch right now. This is the second to last home series for A&M softball, and they've got a chance. I think a series like this, A&M is hosting LSU this weekend, could solidify them as a top 8 national seed, which would mean they would host the regional and a super regional.
You mean RPI? Well, first off, you want to talk about baseball team. They went from like 91 RPI into the 50s by beating Tennessee last week. Texas A&M softball, number 1 RPI. LSU, number 4? 5. I didn't have it pulled up.
Yeah, it was somewhere. It was high, yeah.
That we're working off of the podcast that
right. We're trying to remember
never see the light of day.
Yeah.
College, number 4. Got it right.
There
LSU, number 4. With the softball team, pretty well rounded. They can hit the ball. They can hit the ball for power. They're keeping runs off the board with their pitching. Fielding, maybe a little bit left to be desired there, a little bit down there, but and they're allowing hits, but they're not allowing those hits to cross the plate.
And that's what's important. Baseball, keep them from crossing home. And
thanks, Tyler.
That
is hot takes from Tyler Shaw.
Yeah, some great analysis. But I mean, they really are. I mean, are not really any major flaws in this team. And then when you look at their resume, there's no major flaws in their resume. So when you're talking about the postseason and hosting, I mean, they've kind of got it all. There's no blemishes. The only series they've lost was to third-ranked Florida at the time, which isn't really a blemish on your resume. I think the biggest difference between this is year 3 of Tricia Ford, and she's made leaps each year. It's been very impressive the way this trajectory, the softball team. The biggest difference to me is the depth of their pitching. They have an All-American Emily Kennedy who can win you games and can carry you a long way, like we've seen. They almost made it to the Women's College World Series last year with basically just Emily Kennedy. You've got some other pitchers in there that you can sprinkle in there and back her up, and it's not all on her shoulders. Which, when you're talking about deep runs, is going to be key and obviously huge. And you'll be out there to kind of witness it. This should be a fun series. I know they lost to LSU last year. They got that revenge on their mind. It should be good. We'll see.
Did you have baseball beating Tennessee or
no?
Taking the series at Tennessee?
Actually, so not the fashion that they did. And I didn't really envision this turnaround. That they're on a 4-game win streak right now, but technically, yes. Before the series started, I did say, this is going to be one of those things. Just because the way baseball is, they shouldn't win this series.
That's the way baseball goes.
That's the way baseball go. They shouldn't win this, so of course they will. And they did. I did not imagine the run rule and the 11 homers and just the crazy doubleheader of a day that Saturday was. And that seems to have just kind of sparked some life in them because they rolled. I know it's a very bad Sam Houston team, but they run rule Sam Houston. Looked kind of shaky last night. Not going to lie, that Ryan Prager's still struggling a little bit, but he still gave them 7 innings, almost 7 innings. So there's still a lot to be desired with their starting pitching right now. But I mean, you get the win. You're 4 wins in a row. You're still in the hunt, and Caden Sorrell's your hero.
Weston Moss looked really good last night too, out of the pen.
He did. He's probably the reason they won that game.
Right, and finally finding a little bit of early on in the season, it was the pen ERA was drastically different on the weekends than the starting ERA. Starters, I mean, mostly Prager has been a little bit less than his normal self, but if they can find consistency in a guy like Weston Moss there at the end of the pen, it's very, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to the team 2 years ago, who actually didn't make it to the call, but or even in Jim Schlossnagel's first season, where they found enough pieces in the bullpen, in the starting pitching to supplement. If the bats can stay as hot as they are, they can maybe swing their way to the postseason, but they're going to have to win a lot of games. And especially, they're probably going to need to continue the next 2 games and sweep South Carolina, as it's one of their only unranked series left on the schedule.
The schedule does them no favors, but that is the SEC. I think so. They're at 4 SEC wins right now. If they sweep South Carolina, sweep Missouri is probably their next most likely to be able to sweep. And then they have got LSU, Texas, Georgia. I might be missing one. Arkansas. Mm-hmm. If they take one of 2, so if they which I think is very possible. I know those are really good teams, but if you get one of 2 of all of those series, I think they would get to 13 wins.
13 wins, as they've always show on ESPN. Since A&M's been in the SEC, 13 wins has been enough. 13 wins and an RPI around 40 or less has been a golden ticket into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and that's a lot of big ifs. You still have to sweep South Carolina, and you still have to sweep Missouri and take one of 2 of all those other games. Maybe you supplement by stealing a series against Georgia or Texas, getting 2 or 3 in one of those. So lots of big ifs, but the path is there. I mean, it's possible. I think a week ago, before the Tennessee series, and maybe even after that game 1 when they got run ruled, we thought there's absolutely no way that this is a postseason team. But I mean, here they are putting life back into and hope back into fans.
You're going to be at track this weekend?
Yeah. So we have interest. So. Track. They're hosting a huge meet. There's 32 teams competing in this, so I think this is going to be as close to, rather the NCAA's as you're going to get It's a big meet, 2 days. You got pretty much every event except for the 10K. And then, 32 teams here, great competition. The men's team coming off an SEC indoor title. I talked to Pat Henry yesterday. He said Pat Henry has coached at A&M since 2005, so this is his 21st season. Mm-hmm. He's won 6 national champions. He's won a lot more, but he's won 6 with A&M. He thinks this team is more talented and has more depth than any of those other teams. And he's won. And now he as soon as he said that, he said that means nothing about winning a national championship because the stars kind of have to align and there's luck involved.
And track is just that rare one where you have like basically 2 to 3 opportunities, and that's your whole season.
Right.
I mean,
right.
yes.
So you have one bad day and you're toast. But he was saying all that to say the potential is there. This is a team that is very capable of winning a national championship. Who knows if that actually happens? But it's there, and so I think they'll put on a show this weekend for the fans. I'll be out there to see kind of some of the Friday night stuff. There's some exciting runners. Ahmad Robinson, third best 400 time in the world right now, best in the nation of the United States.
The 4x400 team is also setting some records too.
And Ahmad, I talked to him about that 4x400 team. He said we're unbeatable. He said his confidence and his swagger, it was pretty cool. He just said we're unbeatable. We step out on the track, nobody's beating us, and he usually anchors. So he goes, and then I get the stick, and it's over. And this will be a big test, though. They got like USC and some other teams that'll actually give him some fight, which should be good for him. But a lot of good spring sports going on.
It is a busy week for A&M this week, and the weekend in sports. We'll have it all for you there. And then next week, it's the big spring game, football.
Our favorite.
Spring, our favorite. We love covering the spring game. Maybe we'll get Max down on the field.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get him in on the action, and that'll make it a little bit more exciting. But we'll talk a little bit more football next week as spring practice kind of comes to a close and previewing for that spring game. But for all the action this weekend, check the newscasts tonight and this weekend for all the action from baseball, softball, track, everything going on here. Check KBTX.com, KBTX Sports app for any written recaps and things that you don't catch live on TV, because we'll have people everywhere and we'll have it all covered. So I think that's about all the time we have for this abbreviated redo of a podcast that we're having to do today. So for Tyler Shaw, Max Crawford, who isn't here, I'm Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. We'll talk to you next week.